Welcome back to another Wednesday Coffee and Conversation. This week we are in the second half of Acts chapter 8. As you know, we've been going through a series through the book of Acts, slowly working our way week by week through this book about the early church. And it has been such a powerful, meaningful, challenging series for us to walk through as a church family. This past Sunday, Pastor Connie was in the second half of Acts chapter 8. And it's the story of Philip and the eunuch, of sharing the gospel in this supernatural appointment. So grab a drink, grab your Bible, because you'll even spend some time reading through those verses once again, reflecting on this story. And grab your family or call up your friends in a safe, responsible way. And let's just spend a few moments looking at 3 questions based off of Sunday's teaching in order to put them into practice in our everyday lives. Here's question number 1. Has God ever given you a supernatural appointment? What we mean by that is where God orchestrates your path to cross with somebody else's at the right moment, the right time, in a way that you can then share the gospel in a powerful way. When we look at the story of Philip and the eunuch, that's what we see happening. It's this supernatural appointment. God has primed each individual for this moment of time where they are to meet. And it's all so that Philip can share the gospel message of who Christ is. So reflect and talk. Have you ever experienced that kind of supernatural appointment? That's question number 1. Question number 2. What is the best way to share the gospel? Now, that sounds like a very general question. What's the best way to share the gospel? But we actually want to ask that question in light of this story of Philip and the eunuch. So again, it's in the second half of chapter 8 of Acts. Read through this story once again. Look at the interaction and ask yourself, what can I learn from here? What are the best practices that I can learn from Philip on how to share the gospel? We don't want to be unprepared when sharing the gospel or kind of fumble around. I know we can be kind of nervous if we're not prepared or thinking it through beforehand. So spend some time in this chapter and think about how God used Philip and how Philip was best able to share the gospel in this moment. So that's question number 2. Finally, question number 3. Share how the gospel has transformed your life. Now you might notice that's a period. That's not a question mark. But it's still an exercise that we want to take as a church family. First, share with one another, how has the gospel transformed your life? How has this good news of Jesus Christ made a difference in you and in your life? But even spend some time and think through, how would you go about sharing that gospel message? How would you actually go about sharing that message of God's testimony in your life? Take some time to write it out even. We want to be prayerful and be hoping for and asking God for these supernatural appointments, these opportunities where we can share the gospel, share the good news with others. But I think it also means that we need to be prepared ourselves in order to share that news. We need to be ready to share our testimony of how we would articulate it and how we'd share about all that God has done in our lives. So take some time to write it out, think it through how you would actually share that. But then as this video ends, take a few moments. Take a few moments to be in prayer with one another or by yourself and just ask God for Him to arrange and orchestrate some supernatural appointments in your coming days. Opportunities, moments where you can share the gospel news with a friend, with a coworker, with a neighbor, someone close to you, even a family member, where we can share the good news of the transformation of God's grace in your life. So those are your 3 questions for this week. We're going to be continuing in the book of Acts this Sunday. Hope to see you there in person or online.